of Santorini, and this is an old custom going on most islands, not only in Santorini. At least once in your life, you would have to build a church or a chapel that you would be dedicating to a saint of your choice. Religion was extremely important in the past, especially on the islands, even more in Santorini, I would say, and it makes sense. After so many volcanic eruptions, so many earthquakes, no wonder people were even more religious, and very often people, families, were making promises to specific saints, and they were asking for their protection. If the husband, for example, was to come back safe and sound from the sea voyage, they would have a church built in the honor of that specific saint, or after one of the natural catastrophes that hit the island, they were building churches in honor of the Virgin Mary, in honor of Jesus Christ, to ask for their help so that it doesn't happen again. But of course it keeps happening because it's nature, that's how it is. So that's the reason why there's many. And if you've seen many, you have noticed as well that some of them are very big, very imponent, very beautiful. Others are very small, very simple, in the middle of nowhere sometimes. And sometimes they don't have domes. They have a vaulted rooftop like a house. Some of them don't have a bell tower. They will just have a tiny cross. So it means it was never about the size of the church. It was always about the faith of people. That's what was the most important thing here. And many of those churches and chapels are dedicated to Saint Nicholas. Saint Nicholas is the patron saint of Greece, and he protects sailors, boats, fishermen. No wonder he was so important, especially on the islands where most men were either fishermen or seamen. So as a rule, you cannot really visit the family churches, only if you're lucky enough and you happen to pass by on the celebration day of the church. How do you know when you see a lot of flags, colorful flags around the church? Anywhere in Greece is the same, that's the main decoration. And on that particular day, anybody will be able to enter any church, public or private. Now, if you want to visit public churches in Santorini, there's basically two open every day, and they are in Fidan. You would have to go to the capital. It's the only ones open every day. The metropolis, that's the main Orthodox Church of Santorini, and next to the cable car is the Catholic Cathedral dedicated to Saint John the Baptist. Not everybody is Orthodox in Santorini. About 5% of the population is Catholic. Basically, all these islands that were part of the Duchy of the Aegean, created by the Venetians a long time ago, on all those islands there is still a Catholic community. So not all churches are Orthodox. Many of them are actually Catholic. This is the most important thing you need to know about churches. And since we're talking about religion and churches, let's talk just a tiny bit about superstition. Because nowadays, especially the younger generation, is not as religious as the parents or the grandparents, but everybody is still kind of superstitious. And this is one of the reasons why, especially when you go to the shops, you always see the same things for sale, including the eye. The blue eye you see everywhere. There's thousands of them around you all the time. And sometimes people don't buy them because they think it's a tourist trap. There's so many everywhere. It's not possible that people use those things. Oh yes, it is possible. Everybody is using one of those. Maybe you haven't noticed, but above Nico's head, your driver, there is one. There is an eye exactly above his head. I usually have one with my house keys. All the families have one indoors by the entrance door. All the ladies have at least one piece of jewelry with an eye. If you really follow tradition, you are gonna pin a tiny eye like this on babies' clothes when they are born, or above their crib, at least for the first 40 days of their lives. It's supposed to protect them. Generally speaking, the eye is protecting you against evil energies, negative energies, whether you believe it or not. And if you want to buy those, to take them back home, it's always better for you to buy it for someone else. Don't buy it for yourself. Have someone buy it for you, and you buy it for someone else. It's not about the size. It can be big, small. We don't care about the size, but it is something that people believe in. And I also wanted you to know that this belief in the eye, I would say, is kind of universal. It is not only in Greece. It is not only about ancient Greece. The Egyptians were already burying the pharaohs with an eye, the eye of Horus that was blue as well. So this is all the debris, and it's a belief that is found almost everywhere in the world. The belief that the eye is protecting you, so it is also important to know that. Now that you know all those things, let's talk about wine. Now is the time. And I will answer your question in about a minute from now. But you tell me first, have you seen any vines? You haven't? Oh yes, you have. They are everywhere. All the low green bushes you see, almost everywhere, are the vines. That's what they look like, and that's probably why you have not recognized them. If you look now on your left, you see a few. So all the bushes like this are the vines, guys. In Santorini, we cannot do what you do in your country if you produce wine. I'm talking about the trellis system, the most common technique when you see some wires and the vines going up. It's not possible. The main problem is always the same, the wind. Very strong winds, specifically from the beginning of May on. What's the problem in May? Fruiting is beginning. So the grapes will be super small, like these. If they are not protected, sheltered from the strong winds we are going to have, they will be destroyed. If they are destroyed, there's no grapes to harvest when the time comes. So we cannot use the trellis system. I will tell you about the main technique you see all over Santorini, the low bushes. Try to imagine a vine. And for every vine, we will have to choose the 2 or 3 best canes. You keep the canes in your hands and you weave them all together to form a wreath. That's what's on the ground and you cannot see well sometimes. Imagine a wreath. If you don't know the word in English, imagine a round shape, like a basket, but without the bottom. And that round shape is on the ground, the grapes are inside, and now you see leaves outside. This way the grapes are protected from the winds. They get to spend some time in the shade, and that's very important for them to be able to develop properly all the time. Grapes cannot be in the sun all the time. It's not good for grapes. They need to be in the shade as well. And now the third reason for this is the lack of rain. This winter, for you to know, it rained 7 times. That was it. And when I'm telling you 7 times, I don't mean rainy days. We don't have rainy days. It doesn't exist in Santorini, never ever. It might rain for like 15, 20 minutes, and that's it. It stops. That is one time. So we cannot count on the rain. But do you think we need rain? We want rain. We do? What for? We don't really need rain, guys. Because most people are not farmers anymore. 99% of what we need on a daily basis is not produced in Santorini. It's produced somewhere else in Greece or abroad, and then it's brought to us with the boats and the planes. That's why boats and planes are so important to us. Without them, we would not be able to live in Santorini, especially in summer with so many people all together. So we are not self-sufficient anymore. We used to be until the 1980s. Since the beginning of the tourism industry, we're not anymore. In any case, we don't really need the rain, and here is the secret, the soil. Most of the soil is volcanic. That means it has a lot of pumice, and pumice is very porous. It's like a sponge, and it's gonna absorb all the humidity we have almost every night, and sometimes it's a lot of humidity. So much that it's like it's raining when you wake up in the morning and you go outside. And during the day, the pumice is working like a natural reservoir, and it's giving out slowly the humidity to all the plants, including the vines. So if you don't want to, you don't need to water what you cultivate in Santorini because of that, because of all that moisture that is directly in the soil that is working like a sponge. And most people would not be watering what they cultivate. There's still some fruits and vegetables produced here. If you have the opportunity now in summer, try them. You will see the difference in taste. They are so tasty, so delicious. I'm thinking about the grapes and the tomatoes, small watermelons, small melons as well. Some eggplants. The eggplants in Santorini are white and they are sweet. They are not sour at all. Try some fruits and vegetables from here. You will see the difference right away in terms of taste. So that's the secret, guys. Now I want to tell you something else before we arrive, because I assume that some of you like wine, and if you do, maybe you have heard of international varieties, the famous ones with the fancy names like Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Noir, Pinot Gris, Malbec. They sound nice, right? There's thousands of them. Forget about them, because they do not exist in Santorini. In Santorini, we only cultivate Greek varieties. All of them are Greek. A lot in the past, more than 60 different varieties in Santorini, and more than 5,000 hectares of vines. Now officially, 2023, 1,200 hectares of vines, and still 33 different varieties are cultivated here, more white than red, because the island is more famous for white wines than red wines. And what's interesting about all this is that some varieties from Santorini are indigenous. They are specifically from here, even though they are found in other parts of Greece. Originally, they are from Santorini, and it's the case of the main white variety called Assyrtiko. That's the name, Assyrtiko. And the Assyrtiko variety is cultivated in approximately 80 to 85% of the vineyards at the moment. So those guys are the most important things you need to know. If you look now on your left, maybe you can notice that those vines are still too young. That's the reason why you cannot really see the wreath in the basket. You cannot do that right away. You have to wait a few years. And if you want, I can show you a photograph. I always have a photograph with me. I will show you a photograph, and in the photograph you will see the basket clearly, the wreath. The wreath I'm going to show you is about 20 years of age. You will see the leaves outside. The only thing you have to imagine is the grapes inside. That's the only thing you cannot see in the picture, but imagine the grapes inside the wreath I'm about to show you, and you will understand right away what I was trying to explain to you before.